I was wondering what I might say today, and I was looking around my office, and I saw this empty wine bottle, a big one. And it had kind of surfaced because things are being moved around in my office for the Everett Neurological Center Historic Hartley Mansion tour tomorrow. We've got Chris Gregoire's husband coming up, and we have Roland Hartley's granddaughter and great-grandson. They're going to lead the tour of this place. And so everything's been moved around. And so I looked at this bottle, this large bottle of imported French wine, and it reminded me of your father, because Cedric Toohey was very esteemed in the medical staff. Everybody knew him. Everybody loved him. And so when it came time for his retirement, which would have been maybe 20 years ago, certain people were selected for this event. Maybe there were a dozen people there. Tom was there. And so the retirement event for Dr. Toohey was very much anticipated. Now, you notice I always call him Dr. Toohey. I knew him 30 years, but he was always Dr. Toohey. I just couldn't think of any other name. And I think it's because, along with others, we all respected him so much. It was hard to call him Cedric. And so we were all there. We were all in smoking jackets, Tom, as I recall. And we waited, and the limo pulled up, and the chauffeur opened the door, and out he came. Remember, Tom? And we had a really great night. It went on, and I might add, that wasn't the only bottle of wine that was consumed that night. And we started telling stories that related to his quality as a person, as a doctor. And there are just many, many stories. One of them related to the fact that when I started practice here 30 years ago, I had finished the neurosurgery residency training program, and I had been assistant chief of neurosurgery at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. And you'd think I'd be all up and ready to go. But actually, when you do these procedures, they do make you a bit anxious, some more than others. And so whenever I was in that frame of mind, if Dr. Toohey came to the doctor's lounge, or he burst into the operating room where Tom and I might be doing a case, or Jim, there's this tremendous sense of confidence that you would feel. You know, your confidence level rose and rose the more you were in Dr. Toohey's presence. And we did many cases together, as Ann knows. Ann dreaded those night calls. When I would call at 2 in the morning, and I'd be in the operating room with Jim or Tom Suvich, waiting for him to join us. Remember, not only did he assist surgeons like myself in the operating room, but he had this full family practice of his own. He had one of the largest family practices on staff, and still he'd make time to help myself and others. Another thing I could say about Cedric was he celebrated life, all things in life, large and small. He loved to talk about McGill University. I walked in with Dr. Trask, and I didn't realize that Dr. Trask and a couple others were with him at McGill University. And he loved McGill University. But he could focus on McGill University, or he could focus on something as small as a cat. And I remember being at his place in Snohomish with that great big comfortable room and all the leather furniture and the fireplace. And at one point in our conversation, he got up because the cat was there. The cat was meowing. And so I was wondering what he was going to do. So I followed him into the kitchen. And Ann, you weren't there, but there was some cat food laid out. So I thought this was a pretty simple procedure. He's going to open up the cat food and feed the cat. But that's not what he did. Instead, the cat was meowing and meowing, and he's looking all through the cabinets until he opened one cabinet and had this big smile. And he pulled a little can of pink pearled shrimp out of the cabinet. And as soon as he reached for the cabinet, I might add, before the pink pearled shrimp was visible, the cat stopped meowing. So if you ever wondered what happened to your pink pearled shrimp, That was it. Another thing about Dr. Toohey is the fact that he could always find something about you that was interesting. He made you feel good. So whenever you're around Dr. Toohey, you felt like, when he was talking to you, you're about the most important thing going in this world. It's a very special skill or trait or ability that some people have that others don't. And obviously not only I felt that, but all of his family and friends and his patients felt the same thing. And I think a tribute to that interest in people was manifest in his retirement event, farewell, I guess you call it an retirement gala, Claire. It was held in one of the older buildings here in Snohomish maybe 20 years ago. And you might think that at this retirement event, or this farewell event, you just walk through the door and shake his hand and say, "Gee," said, "Whoops, Dr. Toohey, nice to know you." But that wasn't possible, of course, because there was this huge line of people that went all the way out of the building, past the front door, and way down the sidewalk. And this whole thing, as I understand it, went on for, all day, I believe. And he finally had to sit down, and the hours went by, and he must have seen thousands, literally thousands, I think, of family, friends, and patients, particularly patients and well-wishers. Something so special. I don't know if that's ever happened to any other member of the medical staff. So I think just as at that retirement dinner that we had for Cedric at my office, you could go on and on and on talking about this man, this husband, this father, this doctor, this great guy. And so as I was looking at that bottle of wine, this big bottle of empty French wine in my office this morning, I realized why I kept it. And I kept it because it reminded me of life, and it reminded me of Dr. Toohey, and the fact that when the wine is gone, the spirit remains. Thank you.